What's going on, everybody? Cabana Greg here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my Nintendo DS game collection. So welcome back to another video here on the channel, and as I've kind of already mentioned, today we are going to be taking a look at my Nintendo DS game collection. Now, if the Nintendo DS is really not your thing, you're more of a Nintendo 3DS kind of person, I've actually recently done a video going through all of my Nintendo 3DS games that I've collected so far. And if you're interested in checking that out, I'll go ahead and leave a link to that video down below. Now, I also did a video going through all of the digital 3DS games that I purchased on the Nintendo eShop right before it closed down. So if you have an interest in seeing what I picked up on the Nintendo 3DS eShop right before it closed down, I will also leave a link to that one down below. Guys, if you are new to the channel here, maybe consider subscribing if you want to see more stuff like this. And if you are a returning viewer, again, as always, super appreciate you coming back for more stuff like this. Now, today we're only taking a look at around 14 or so games, so the collection is still pretty small, but I'm hoping in the coming months, the coming years, that I'll continue to add to this collection and it'll grow in size over time. And my main hope is that while you're watching this video, maybe there's like one or two games in this collection that you see and you're like, oh, I remember playing that game's awesome. And maybe there might be like one or two games that are absent from my collection, maybe one or two games that are missing that you'd recommend me picking up and trying out and including in my collection, which is really what these are all about. If you have any suggestions for games that I should look out for and add to the collection, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always interested in trying out new stuff and growing the collection. Alrighty, so without further ado, let's actually take a look at my Nintendo DS game collection.
Alrighty, everybody, so we are here once again in a very familiar site, but we're going to actually be going through all of my Nintendo DS games today, just my Nintendo DS game collection. And I've got a couple games here, I've got maybe like 13 or 14 games or so, and we'll just go through the list right now. And starting with a very familiar game to, I'm sure, a lot of people here. That is Mario Kart DS on the Nintendo DS, as it were. So that's the front, and this is the back here. That's the game cartridge. Yeah, Mario Kart DS. I cannot say enough good things about this game. This is one of my favorite Mario Karts. I think it's a really solid Mario Kart. I used to play a ton of hours in this game. I played online with my friends and my family. I think it has some of my favorite tracks in the game, Peach's Garden, the clock map, whatever that one's called. But there are a handful of really great maps in this game, a lot of great tracks. And, this is probably one of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, minus Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is probably my second most played Mario Kart game, and I think for good reason. It's a really solid game. But yeah, that's Mario Kart DS. It's a great game. I think it's really solid, and I always come back, to Mario Kart DS every now and then. I think that the challenges in Mario Kart DS were a really nice inclusion, and I wish that more Mario Kart games sort of had those. So that's kind of another reason why I think Mario Kart DS is a really solid game. All right, moving right along here, the next at the top of the list here is Rhythm Heaven on the Nintendo DS. So that's the back there and the game cartridge. So I might have mentioned this on other videos in the past, but I'm a big rhythm game fan. I love Theater Rhythm, I love the Persona rhythm games, I love Dance Dance Revolution. Put a rhythm game in front of me and I've more than likely, played it, or if I haven't played it, I will, I would love to actually play it. And Rhythm Heaven is one of those games where, I heard this is a very underrated title on the Nintendo DS. There was a Wii Rhythm Heaven game that came out that a lot of people enjoyed as well. I actually watched a speed run of the Wii Rhythm Heaven, and it looked like a lot of fun. And from what I've heard, it's a good, fun, challenging rhythm game that really utilizes the Nintendo DS hardware to its full potential. And that excites me. That does sound like a enjoyable experience overall. And so I thought, let me pick this up and see what Rhythm Heaven is all about. So I'm looking forward to actually playing this one, but, I'm sure it'll be a great time. And that's Rhythm Heaven on the Nintendo DS. Okay, so next one I have here is actually one of my favorite games. Just in general, it's one of my favorite games, and it's by far, one of my top 3, favorite Nintendo DS games of all time. And that is The World Ends With You on Nintendo DS. So this is the back here and the game cartridge. So fun fact, I had this on my Nintendo DS originally, sold it years ago, found it at a swap meet, and when I saw it, I had to pick it up. I did get the Nintendo Switch port for this game, and honestly, it's not as good as the Nintendo DS proper title. The main reason is just because I think the translation from Nintendo DS to Switch in terms of the controls wasn't really that great. It wasn't 100% successful in my opinion. So if you're looking for the definitive experience to play The World Ends with You, it's on Nintendo DS in my opinion. But I'm really happy to have this back in my collection. Again, this is one of my favorite games of all time. This is definitely one of the best, if not like my favorite Nintendo DS game that I have here. Maybe there's one other one that comes close, but The World Ends With You is a really special game. It is really fun, challenging, the story is great and convoluted as you'd come to expect from the team behind this game. And overall, I can't say enough good things about this one. So definitely check this out if you come across it. Okay, so next one here on the top is a Shin Megami Tensei game. This is Devil Survivor, Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor on the Nintendo DS. And that was the front, and this is the back over here, and this is the game cartridge. So I've recently been picking up a lot of Shin Megami Tensei games. I up until recently hadn't played Persona 5 or any of the Persona games, and so I really like the Persona games, and so I really want to get back into, or get into the Shin Megami Tensei games and sort of experience their unique blend of storytelling and combat. And I've heard that this is a solid entry into the Shin Megami Tensei series. It's not like the best or anything like that, but I figured it'd sort of flesh out the overall universe, the overall lineage of Shin Megami Tensei, and I'd get a better idea again of like the different types of experiences that you can have with this series. And so I'm looking forward to taking a look at Devil Survivor, and that is Devil Survivor on the Nintendo DS. Alrighty, so next game here on the top of the list is a classic in my opinion. This is just one of those games that if you have a DS, you probably have this too. It is Big Brain Academy for the Nintendo DS. And see, this is the back here, and the game cartridge. So I already mentioned I'm a big fan of rhythm games. Well, I'm also a big fan of Big Brain, Brain Age, any type of game where there are knowledge-based puzzles. I typically also enjoy and I gravitate towards those games as well. I've been playing a lot of Brain versus Brain on the Switch, and so I'm excited to get back into Big Brain Academy on the Nintendo DS. And ultimately, I really like these games for what they are. I think they are entertaining, and they're just a little, they're a fun little distraction. Maybe take like 5 or 10 minutes out of your day to do the daily challenges, or just, see what the age of your brain is, right? But, they're fun and just nice little diversions, I think, from everything else that you could be playing. And, I just like these games in general. So, I just have an affinity for them. I think that's kind of why I find myself picking this up from time to time and just kind of playing it on the offshoot. So that's pretty much it for Big Brain Academy on the Nintendo DS though. Alrighty, so next here on the list we've got another Atlas published game here. We've got Trauma Center Under the Knife for Nintendo DS. You can see this is the back over here, and the game cartridge. So I think this game is another prime example of, the definitive experience to play this game right would be to play it on the original hardware, just because of the overall, mechanics at play here, how the game utilizes the Nintendo DS's touchscreen. As you can see the stylus up there on the top right. It is just one of those games where, you are just kind of utilizing the touchscreen to sort of interact with the universe of the game, right? You interact with the game world. It's a bit more tactile, right? Just given the nature of what type of game this is. And so I think if you're looking for, the definitive way to play this game, it's on the original hardware, it's on the Nintendo DS. And, similarly to like Rhythm Heaven, right? It is just a fun game to play, I think, with the touchscreen mechanics that they have. And the core story is pretty interesting as well. It's another fun and unique experience on the Nintendo DS, and one of the reasons why I really love Nintendo, the Nintendo DS, Nintendo 3DS. I think that the handheld as a whole, right, kind of gives you a unique experience that not many other platforms can provide you with. That's Trauma Center Under the Knife on Nintendo DS. Alrighty, so next on the top of the stack here, we've got a Final Fantasy game of all things. It's Final Fantasy 3 on the Nintendo DS. That's the back here, and the game cartridge. So, I would say that Final Fantasy 3 is definitely not my favorite Final Fantasy game. If I had to pick maybe my top 3, I would do maybe Final Fantasy 5, Final Fantasy 6, and 7 maybe? It's a toss-up, honestly. I really like Final Fantasy 9 as well. But this is all to go to say that I think Final Fantasy 3 is fine. It's a solid experience through and through. I believe Square Enix also released Final Fantasy 3 and 4. There were like HD ports for the PSP. Not sure if I'm remembering that correctly. Feel free to leave a comment down below if I'm misremembering this. But, I picked up Final Fantasy 3 on the Nintendo DS and just wanted to see how that port actually plays. I have played Final Fantasy 3 just on other hardware, not the DS itself. But, I'm excited to kind of get back into Final Fantasy 3. Again, not my favorite, but I think this is still a solid experience. it's still better for me, at least, than Final Fantasy 2. But yeah, that's Final Fantasy 3 on the DS. Alrighty, so the next game here on the list is Professor Layton and the Curious Village on the Nintendo DS. And I actually picked this game up at a swap meet, and that's the game cartridge, by the way. But yeah, I actually picked this game up at a swap meet some time ago. I did a whole video kind of showing that I got Curious Village, Diabolical Box, and Unbound Future. And so I've basically, those are coming up as well. So I've completed the trilogy, the core, Nintendo DS trilogy minus Last Spectre, which, I really don't, it's really not considered as part of the main trilogy, right? It's those 3 games, and then Last Spectre sort of came out near the end of the Nintendo 3DS's life cycle, and then we get all the Nintendo 3DS games for Professor Layton. So, I'm excited to actually revisit all 3 of these. I do remember Unwound Future being my favorite just because of how it ends and all the puzzles in there, but Curious Village is a very solid start, and if you are into puzzle games, I think this is an awesome puzzle game with a cool story, great animation, art style, and overall, you really should not sleep on this game. It's awesome. And this actually brings me to the sequel here. This brings me to Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box on the Nintendo DS. And this is the back here and the game cartridge. But yeah, so as I've kind of already mentioned, we have Curious Village, we've got Diabolical Box, and then Unbound Future is the other one. I do like this one quite a bit. I think that the puzzles are really solid as well. The core story is interesting. And once again, it's just like if you like puzzle games, you'll enjoy the core experience, I think. And the puzzles are fun. The story is well written, I think. I like the animation style as well, right? And so this is just another solid, great game on the DS. I think with the new Professor Layton game coming out on Switch, if you're able to track these down and you have a Nintendo DS, I think it's a very fun experience to have. And again, it utilizes the Nintendo DS's hardware, right? Like you're doing a bunch of like touch-based puzzles and drawing and writing out numbers. And so it really uses the touchscreen to its full potential. And it's another game that you really just, I think, would enjoy more if you play on the original hardware. But this is Diabolical Box for Nintendo DS. And finally, when it comes to the Professor Layton games on DS, we've got Unwound Future. And when I say finally, I don't mean, I'm excluding Last Spectre. I should say finally in terms of the core 3 Professor Layton games, the original Professor Layton trilogy on Nintendo DS. And there is the game cartridge as well. But yeah, so we've made it to the 3rd game in the trilogy for Professor Layton. And I think this is probably my favorite one of those first 3, just because I like the way that the story ends. It's a little sad, but satisfying, I think, in some ways. The puzzles are really challenging. And I like the story. There may be parts of it that I like a little bit less than Diabolical Box, but overall, I think the core experience for Unwound Future is great. And again, another reason to play something like this on original hardware, because you get the full usage of the touchscreen, and it just kind of feeds back into the gameplay loop, and it's really satisfying. So overall, I can't say enough good things about Professor Layton, the series as a whole, and then Unwound Future, but definitely check out Unwound Future. It is super awesome. Alrighty, so making our way through the rest of the list here, we've got Elite Beat Agents on Nintendo DS. This is a surprise, this is another rhythm game, and this is the cartridge as well. But yeah, guys, so this is another rhythm game, surprise, right? But I played this quite a bit. It is definitely a hidden gem, I think, on Nintendo DS. You basically have a bunch of licensed songs. They're kind of like cover songs for these officially, licensed big name tracks. And, it's kind of similar to Osu, I think is a good way to explain it. You'll have these little, balls that you have to tap on and then drag your stylus over these, dragging sections. So it is very closely, very similar to Osu if you played that on PC with a mouse and keyboard. But this game's really quirky. It's fun. It's just a blast. I really love this game. This is the for display only unit, but, it doesn't really change anything. It's still the same game, I guess, but this is all to say that Elite Beat Agents is a very fun and unique experience. And again, I think it's kind of like a hidden gem for the system. So if you have any interest, please feel free to check this one out. It is really solid as well. Alrighty, guys, so we're actually working through, we only have a couple more here. The next one on the list is Dragon Quest IX, Sentinels of the Starry Skies. It's quite a mouthful. And this is also for Nintendo DS as well, so you can see this is the back, and that is the game cartridge. So fun fact, Dragon Quest IX was actually the very first Dragon Quest game I ever played. I went to a store when I was pretty young, and the guy that was there, I was looking at this game in the kiosk, and the dude that was working at the store had his DS in the break room, right? Or he had his DS he brought to him, he brought to work with him, and he said, like, hey, do you mind? Like, I can go get it and you can try this out because I've been playing this on my DS right now. So the dude goes into the back. He pulls out, his DS and he gives it to me, some random kid, in the store. And I started playing it then and there. And lo and behold, I was hooked. I thought it was really solid. It was very different from anything I had been playing at the time. And so I picked it up. This is a great game. I think this is, so it's, it's my first Dragon Quest game I ever played. So it definitely is in high regard because of that. But, I think looking past just purely that aspect of it, right? It's still a really solid game. I think that the multiplayer, the online component of the game at the time was really strong. I loved the story. I loved all the various characters and the way that you could customize your party. It was just great. I haven't played all of the Dragon Quest games, but this one by far from what I have played is my favorite. And again, it's just because it's my first game that first Dragon Quest game that I played, and it holds a special place in my heart. But I still think overall it's a really solid experience. It's really great. And if you haven't played Dragon Quest 9, do yourself a favor and check it out if you can find it anywhere. It is well worth your time. But yeah, that is Dragon Quest 9 on DS. Alrighty, everybody. So next here on the list, I've got Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story on Nintendo DS. You can see this is the back over here, and this is the game cartridge. So Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. This is not my favorite of the Mario and Luigi RPGs. I know a lot of people love this game, and I'm not saying it's a bad game. I just don't think this is my all-time favorite Mario and Luigi RPG game. I still think it is Superstar Saga for me personally, but this one is up there. This one's definitely up there. It is a very good Mario RPG. Again, for me personally, it's not as good as something like Superstar Saga, but again, that's just my own opinion, right? But I think there are a lot of unique mechanics that are introduced into this game that are pretty good. The fact that you're inside Bowser and you get to play as Mario, Luigi, and Bowser, and sort of what you do as Mario and Luigi impacts Bowser in the real world or in the actual, world that Bowser is in. So I think that's pretty cool overall. And again, it is not my favorite of the Mario RPGs, but it is solid because of the different mechanics it introduces, and I do think that there are some good moments to this game overall. But yeah, that's Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story on the Nintendo DS. Alrighty, everybody, so we are here at the last game, my last Nintendo DS game here, which is Mario and Luigi Partners in Time on Nintendo DS. So this is the back over here and the game cartridge. So yeah, we made it. This is the last game in my collection, and this is another Mario Luigi RPG. Truthfully, it's been a while since I played this one, so I can't really speak to whether or not I prefer it over Bowser's Inside Story. But I do remember, I like the component of adding the babies into the mix, and you sort of have Mario, Luigi, right? And then the two babies that you sort of control to solve puzzles and then interact with in gameplay. The only thing I remember kind of being a little weird was Baby Peach. But again, I haven't played this game in a minute, so I can't really give you specifics as to why that was the case. But, I do remember, again, really liking this game and having a good time with it. But Superstar Saga, for me, was the definitive Mario and Luigi RPG. I've never played Super Mario RPG, so I'm looking forward to playing that when it comes out on the Switch. But overall, I liked Partners in Time quite a bit from what I remember, and, I do look forward to getting back into this game at some point in the future. But that is Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. Alrighty, everybody, so that is going to do it for today's video, taking a look at my Nintendo DS game collection. If you want to see more stuff like this, I will be adding to my collection over the coming months, coming years, so I will hopefully have a little bit more to show on subsequent videos. But thanks again for stopping by and taking a look at some of these games with me, and I will see you all on the next video.